Welcome everyone to History Gone Wilder, part of How History Will Travel. I'm your host, the Wilder historian, Dr. Lucas Wilder, and last time I wrapped up the Battle of Peebles Farm. Now I cover what was happening north of the James River as Peebles Farm was winding down. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, join the Patreon page, and purchase something from one of my online stores. Every little bit helps. Thank you. As the Battle of Peebles Farm was wrapping up, Benjamin Butler and the Army of the James was still north of the James River, following their success at capturing New Market Heights. The advance westward by the 9th and 5th Corps was working in conjunction with Butler's offensive, but each one seemed to have stalled out. Butler, successful in the initial phase of his expedition, now became cautious, writing to General-in-Chief Ulysses S. Grant that he feared troops from Petersburg had moved across the river to confront him. He informed Grant that Henry Heath and Cadmus Wilcox's division from Hill's Corps were now in his front. Grant became frustrated because from George Meade's correspondence from the far left flank at Petersburg identified Heath and Wilcox's troops were in front of the 9th and 5th Corps and sent copies of those reports to Butler. Still, Butler was hesitant to press toward Richmond. Amid this lull in combat north of the James, Robert E. Lee offered to exchange prisoners man for man. Grant asked Lee if those troops included the black troops captured during the latest fight at New Market Heights. Lee responded that he intended to include all captured soldiers of the United States of whatever nation and color under my control, then added, deserters from our service and blacks belonging to our citizens are not considered subjects of exchange and were not included in my proposition. If there are any such among those stated by you to have been captured around Richmond, they cannot be returned. Grant then terminated the discussions. The government is bound to secure to all persons received into her armies the rights due to soldiers, this being denied by you in the persons of such men as have escaped from Southern masters induces me to decline making the exchanges you ask. Irritated about the loss of ground north of the James River, Lee called together his commanders in that sector, including Richard Ewell, the head of the Department of Richmond, Richard Anderson, the acting 1st Corps commander, 2 division commanders, Robert Hoke and Charles Field, Martin Gary, the head of the local cavalry brigade, and Edward Porter Alexander, the senior artilleryman. Surprisingly, another person joined the group of men, President Jefferson Davis. He had just returned from the Army of Tennessee outside of Atlanta, following the loss of that city to Union forces under William T. Sherman. Lee laid out his plan for knocking Butler back across the river in this meeting. Hoke and Field's infantry would come out of Richmond's fortifications, with Ewell's inexperienced troops taking their place. With the cavalry on their left flank, the 2 divisions would move down the Darbytown road, turn the flank of the Union Army, and drive it against the James River. At 6 a.m. on October 7th, the brigades of Hoke and Field, supervised by Anderson, advanced toward the Union right flank. When the rebels hit the Federal cavalry, the blue-coated soldiers put up a stiff resistance, more than Field was expecting. The Yankees took deliberate aim at the advancing enemy, resulting in multiple casualties. 200 of John Bratton's South Carolinians, dismayed by the accuracy of the Federals, threw down their weapons and began yelling that they were deserters and running toward the Union line. Their comrades began to shoot them in the back, which prompted them to pick up their rifles and continue the advance. The Federal cavalry were driven back toward Deep Bottom and the main Union line. The horsemen brought word of a major Confederate attack, but a few hours passed before anything happened. Field claimed that the delay came from him thinking Hoke was to follow up on this initial success, but it was probably a combination of that and the rough terrain making it difficult for Field to coordinate his brigades. It was after 9 a.m. before Field's men were in place to launch their main assault. Field wasn't able to coordinate his brigades properly, and Bratton and Dudley Du Bois' brigades attacked first, coming under a withering fire from Spencer repeating rifles and musketry that significantly thinned their ranks. Pinckney Bowles' brigade drifted away from the fight, and George Anderson's brigade made almost no progress. The fight was brutal for those who did engage. Bowles' brigade finally got on track and attacked the flank of the Union position, but they were blocked by Union reinforcements. Finally, Hood's Old Texas Brigade, led by John Gregg, led their own attack against the enemy, unsupported. The men got entangled in the abattis and fallen timber, making it difficult to close in on the enemy. One soldier remembered, The enemy held their fire until we were within 150 yards of them, when two ranks arose and fired. As they went down, the other two ranks arose and fired, and so on. The brigade went on by jerks and spurts, climbing logs, pushing our way through brush and fallen timber. But an individual coming the same route 5 minutes afterward could have walked upon the mangled corpses of our boys. The brigade lost a lot of men that day, including its commander, John Gregg. Gregg was born in Alabama, but moved to Texas as a young man. He gained some political power and was part of the Texas Secession Convention. Gregg briefly served in the Confederate Congress before resigning his seat to return to Texas and raise a regiment of men. During the war, he was captured at Fort Donelson, took part in the Vicksburg Campaign and the Battle of Chickamauga. When he recovered from his Chickamauga wound, he was transferred east to take command of Hood's old brigade. Gregg fought in the Overland Campaign with distinction and led his men against Butler's troops when he was shot in the neck and died nearly instantly. He was 36 years old. With their commander dead, command went to Frederick Bass, but he fell wounded, so Lieutenant Colonel Clinton Winkler of the 4th Texas took command. A few men asked permission if they could retrieve Gregg's body. This was given, and in that rain of shot and shell where it seemed nothing could live, they ran, rolled his body on the blanket, and safely bore it to the rear when the brigade was withdrawn from the field. Union losses totaled 458, while the Confederacy's casualties didn't exceed 600. Still, it was a costly day to have gained nothing significant from the attacks. Although small compared to the other engagements during the siege, it represented the last time that Robert E. Lee would launch an offensive north of the James River. Field and Hoke returned to their original positions closer to Richmond and waited for orders to move forward again, or for the Union to attack their position.